All right. Hey, welcome everybody. Let's get right into the Ask Me Anything session. I sent out an Instagram message asking anybody to send in any questions they had about anything really, dealing with career, dealing with certifications, whatever's on your mind. If you think I can help, I would like to just show up and serve for you today. Nothing to sell or anything like that. I just kind of wanted to chat with everybody, and we've already got some questions coming in, and we had some questions submitted prior to the event. So let's check it out. First question that I'm seeing here is, what do you consider to be an old router and a new router or switch for the new CCNP certifications? So I guess if you're studying for Encore or a NARCI, for example, would you be out of date, as an example, if you had something like an ISR 2 router, like a 2900 series? And I'm going to tell you that no, I think if you still have something like an ISR second generation router, like an ISR 2, I've got like 3 or 4 of those things, and I love them. They will do pretty much anything you need to do in terms of routing and switch, or in terms of routing for the new CCNP enterprise track. For switching, I would probably, if I were creating my own home lab, I would probably set up a couple of 3560 switches, and I would set up maybe a 3750. Or actually, you could probably do just as well with 3 3560s. That would allow you to do some have like a triangle design and have a spanning tree up and going. And it would allow you to do ether channel. It would allow you to do trunking and VTP, pretty much all the switching stuff you need to know. So I don't really think you need to go out and worry about getting like 3rd generation ISR routers for the new NP track. What you do need to think about with the new NP track is this, and that is, it's not just routing and switching. CCNP Enterprise includes routing and switching, but it's not just routing and switching, it's enterprise, so it includes wireless. And for that, personally, I went out on eBay and I bought a Cisco wireless access. I actually bought a wireless access point too, but I bought a wireless LAN controller for about $49 or so on eBay. And then later I figured out that, oh yeah, Cisco allows you to download a virtual Cisco wireless LAN controller. It's like a 60-day evaluation copy. I don't think it's the most recent version they have, but they do make one available if you just want to download that. Let's see, other considerations. You're going to need to know a little bit about programmability. So you'll need to know a little bit about Cisco DNA Center. The great news is the fine folks over at Cisco DevNet have made that available to you for free. It's a read-only version of Cisco DNA Center, but if you go out, here's a shortcut. You can go to kwtrain.com/sandbox, and that's going to allow you to get access to their DNA Center. They also have vManage. Actually, that's through dCloud. But yeah, if you search around, there's a link to get a free demo of vManage. So when you're studying things like SD Access, SD-WAN, you can go check that out. Let's see, other things security-wise, you're still primarily focused on router and switch security with some wireless security thrown in. But if you have either the virtualized wireless LAN controller, or if you have the physical gear that maybe you paid $50 for on eBay, you'll be able to practice that wireless security. So hope that answers your question. I'll go to one of the questions I received before this event, and that was, what do you think about the DevNet Associate certification? Should I go down that path, or should I go down the CCNA route? Because remember, as of February the 24th, there is no CCNA en route switch, and one in security and one in wireless. There's sort of one CCNA to rule them all. And it's kind of an enterprise CCNA. And it includes wireless and security and cloud and programmability and routing and switching. And I'm a big fan of it, by the way. Or there's one other associate certification Cisco announced, and that's the DevNet Associate. That's where you can focus on network programmability. And the question was, which track should I go down? And I don't think there's a wrong answer to that. In other words, I think you can be super successful in either of those tracks. I would personally go down the one that I felt the most interest in, the one I had the most passion about, because you're going to be spending some time in that track. You need to enjoy it. And I think everybody should know a little bit about each area. I remember, I think it was about 3 years ago at Cisco Live, Chuck Robbins was giving his keynote, and he was saying, he showed this Venn diagram up on the screen where you had these two overlapping circles. One circle represented people with traditional command line interface knowledge of routing and switching, and one showed people with programmability skills. And he showed that overlapping intersection where you had both programmability and traditional route switch CLI skills, and he called that the hybrid engineer. He said that was the successful engineer of the future. You had both skill sets. So I immediately started preaching to my followers that, hey, you need to go learn Python. You need to get up to speed on this programmability thing. And I still think that's true. I think everybody under the sound of my voice should learn some Python. And I think you should learn some basic routing and switching command line interface stuff too. I think it is good to be that hybrid engineer. But as 2 or 3 years went by, the message coming from Cisco seemed to change a little bit. It went from the hybrid engineer, where you had this one super engineer with both skill sets. It went from that to what Chuck Robbins referred to as the dream team, where you had somebody that had deep domain expertise in programming, and you had somebody else that had deep domain expertise in traditional CLI knowledge. And together, collaboratively, they would be able to roll out the networks of tomorrow. So it was no longer that we had this one superhero network engineer that was knowledgeable in depth about both areas, because you can go super, super deep in each area. So it's not really realistic for somebody to be high-tier experts in both areas. So focus on your area of passion and team up with somebody that has that other area of passion. But together, you're going to make that dream team. And yes, you should be able to speak a little bit of Python, or if you're a programmer, you should be able to speak a little bit of OSPF. You need to be able to work with your partner in crime. But back to the question. I think if you're passionate about programming, and I didn't read your message verbatim, but it seemed like you really had a passion for programming, I think it wouldn't be a bad move to do that. I think there's nothing but good things you could get from getting that certification. It does give you a little bit of a review of traditional networking. You learn about VLANs and trunks and then routers and things like that. But yeah, you learn about GitHub, you learn about Docker, you learn about Python, you learn about software development kits. It's a really cool certification, so I'm a big fan of it. Let's take another one from our YouTube chat. Wow, they are pouring in here. Let's see, what else do we have? Let me try to find something that I think will benefit just about everybody. Oh, when you're helping each other out, answering your questions, I really appreciate that. Eric is saying, hey, I'm looking into getting my first CCNA cert. Do you have any recommendations, any free recommendations for self-study options? Well, for free self-study options, you can always sort of put together a curriculum out of YouTube videos, honestly, because you can go out to Cisco's website and you can you can print out the blueprint for CCNA and just go through those little topic areas. And you can say, all right, this topic area deals with, let's see, what's one of the new topic areas on the new CCNA? It's CRUD, C-R-U-D, for create, read, update, and delete. And that deals with REST APIs. So you might go find a video on what CRUD is all about and take some notes on that. And then you go find a video on what this other thing is about. But as far as like, here's a free CCNA course that's up to date and complete, I personally don't know of one. My viewpoint is this. Now, I don't pretend to know your financial situation, but I like what Tony Robbins says about learning from somebody that has created a curriculum for you. Tony Robbins talks about compressing decades into days. Personally, especially at my age, I don't want to waste time. I want to go to somebody that has already curated a collection of everything I need from start to finish. So I don't spend time trying to find a good source of information from this and a good source of information for that. So personally, I would personally invest in a CCNA course. There's plenty of them online. I mean, we've got them here at Kevin Wallace Training. But here's my viewpoint on that. When I invest in software or a training product, I always ask, is this going to make me more than it costs me? Sometimes the answer is no. In fact, I did a refund on a piece of software earlier this week that I got and thought, this is not going to pay off like I thought it would. So I got a refund. But prior to that, I bought a very expensive training program and it did pay back the $2,000 that I paid for it. So just think about that. Would paying somebody $200 or $300 for a CCNA complete course, would that be worth $300 to you in your future? If so, that should be a no-brainer. But for free options, yeah, you can download Cisco Packet Tracer. That's a great free option for getting hands-on lab experience. I'm a huge fan of Packet Tracer. And then a lot of YouTube videos out there. All right, what else do we have? How long do you think I should study for Encore, somebody is saying? For Encore, I think the good news is, personal opinion time, it's easier than the old route exam if you're exposed to that. The old route exam I thought was super tough. And I wrote the Cisco Press book for it, and I thought it was super tough. But Encore is not as bad in my viewpoint, and it really depends on how much time you can devote to study. In fact, tomorrow I'm wrapping up. We've had this pretty much a month-long live Encore training session going. It's called my Encore Masterclass, and our final live training session is tomorrow, and I'm going to be answering that question for them tomorrow, and I'll go ahead and give you a preview of that. I say, figure out how much time you can spend per week. As an example, let's say that you think, this is just like an example, you put your own number of hours into this, but I might say, all right, I could probably squeeze out 8 hours a week, and I don't want you to just say 8 hours. I want you to tell me where you're getting those 8 hours from. You might say, I can get up early. I can get up an hour early, Monday through Friday, and squeeze out an hour. Saturday, early morning before the family gets up, I could squeeze out another 3 hours. That gives me 8 hours a week. Okay. What is your plan for studying for Encore? Now, for the students that I'm working with, they've gone through this masterclass that I've done, and that's going to be about nearly 24 hours worth of content. And they're going to go through that possibly again and take some notes on that. So we might carve out for them 40 hours for reviewing that video training. For hands-on labs, if they use something like the Cisco modeling labs that just came out a couple of weeks ago, huge fan of that, by the way, they might get some hands-on experience doing that. They might do that for, let's say 10 hours or so. Maybe they spend another 10 hours going over the topics that they find particularly challenging that we covered in class, but it just didn't resonate with them for some reason. They want to go read a paper off the internet on that, or watch some other YouTube videos. And maybe they just need to do some practice exam. We give them a couple of practice exams, so they might want to go through those a few times. Let's say grand total, they say it's going to take, just for easy math, let's say it's going to take 72 hours. 72 hours of study to get ready for the Encore exam. Again, your mileage will vary. And they've already said they can devote 8 hours a week. So 8 times 9 would be 72. So that would be 9 weeks out. You could schedule your exam for about 9 weeks out from today, and that would give you that focal point where there's that little level of accountability. You know the date's coming. It's not just kind of drifting on until you set the date. Go ahead and set the date today, I would tell them. But again, it depends on what your study material is, how quickly you absorb new material, how much you already know going in, how much time you can dedicate per week. But in this example, for that type of student, I think 9 weeks would be a reasonable amount. Let's go back to another question that was sent in prior to the event, and that was somebody said that they'd been following me for a while, and they asked what I'm reading right now. And I thought, well, that's a cool question. I didn't expect that, but what am I reading? I actually don't read one book at a time. I kind of read several on different topics just to kind of keep it interesting. My wife thinks that's a little odd. She says, how do you keep it all straight? I need to focus on one book at a time and then move to the next one. How can you focus on like 4 books? But they're on different topics, so it just kind of works for me. Let me tell you one book. Actually, I was reading this book and I had to pause it so that I could see, just making sure I'm not getting some sort of an Instagram update there for the live stream that didn't work for us a moment ago. But a book that I was reading and then I paused reading it was Built to Serve. And this Built to Serve is by Evan Carmichael. He has a great YouTube channel with a lot of videos for entrepreneurs. And since I run this training business, I find that a lot of interest. And he talks about how in this book, Built to Serve, how you can use some of the struggles in your past to become your mission for the future. And I'm trying to summarize the big book in a couple of sentences. That's not doing it justice. But for me, I was thinking as I was reading it, yeah, when I first got into this industry, I was not great at technology. And I studied it, and I didn't grasp things particularly quickly. I remember taking a lot of notes, reading a lot of stuff on my own, and occasionally there would be this gem of training content that I would get. I remember our Cisco sales rep, he would come by occasionally and give us some free stuff back in the 90s. He would give us free Cisco Press books, or he would give us a free CD, and that CD would have like an animation of training showing there's a packet going between these 2 devices and explaining how a switch works. I thought, oh, this is awesome. I love it when somebody explains things to me simply like this. So for about 6 years now that we've been doing this full time, that's been our motto: simplify. We do animations in our training videos and we try to simplify what we're doing, or what you can do to make this training very digestible. So yeah, I really love this book, Built to Serve. The reason I paused it, and I need to resume it now, is I read another book by Michael Hyatt. It was called The Vision-Driven Leader. And the reason I paused one book to read the other one is I had a buddy that was reading it as well, so we would have these little book club meetings and talk about what we learned the past week. But again, that's Built to Serve by Evan Carmichael and The Vision-Driven Leader by Michael Hyatt. Other books that I'm reading quick backstory. In college, well, my bachelor's degree is in electrical engineering, but after I got my first job, I thought, you know what would be a good companion for an electrical engineering degree? And that is an MBA, a Master's of Business Administration degree. So I started taking the MBA courses at night, and it was going to take a few years because I was working full time. And at the same time, I'm learning all this Cisco stuff, and I'm hearing about like Cisco certifications and this new CCNA thing that had just come out. And I started doing more and more Cisco, and I was loving it. And I was kind of struggling with I just wasn't enjoying the business stuff enough, and it was diluting my efforts. So I decided, all right, I'm about a third to a half of the way in on my MBA. I'm gonna push pause on that, and I'm gonna switch over, and I'm gonna fully focus on getting my Cisco career going. I want to really dive deep in this. One of the things that inspired me to do that was an old movie, The Color of Money. I don't know if you've seen it, but it has a very young Tom Cruise in it, and let's see, Paul Newman. Paul Newman, he was this pool shark. He was this old, wise pool shark, and he was giving advice to the young Tom Cruise, whose name was Vincent in the movie. And he was telling him, if you can be the best at something, if you've got an area of excellence, then he was talking about money. He said that rich can come fairly easily. And the point was, if you can get to be one of the top few percent in the world at something, then you can be successful at that. That's why I didn't hesitate to tell the person asking about their DevNet CCNA or their DevNet Associate cert, sure, there's success to be had, I have no doubt, in the DevNet track. You just got to be one of the top people in that track. Same thing for whatever you go down. If you're going to go down something, go down it and elevate yourself to one of the top few percent. In fact, if you get Cisco certified at the NP level, you're already like in the top 5% of people that work with Cisco devices. So yeah, it doesn't take a lot of effort to get yourself in that top few percent. But back to the story. ever since then, I thought, okay, I kind of feel like I've missed something by dropping out of the MBA program. So I still love to read business books, but I like to do it at my own pace. So there, and again, I like information presented simply because I don't grasp stuff if it's super, super hard. So there is this, there's a publisher, DK, and they've got a great set of business books. The one I'm reading right now is How Money Works. And here's one that says How Business Works. And the reason I love these books so much, I'm reading one on Kindle, the reason I'm showing you this one, is it makes everything super digestible. Let's, for example, I just opened to a random page and it's about public and private companies. And on 2 pages, it gives you graphical representations of public and private companies. And it gives you these little blocks to read, and you're done with public and private companies. You turn to the next page and it's on multinational companies, and we have evaluating staff. It breaks pretty much every business topic you could think of down into 2 pages. And the other book is doing the same thing on money. So I'm reading that as well. Now, a book I'm going to recommend for my students tomorrow is a couple of Python books, because I do think everybody under the sound of my voice should learn a little bit of Python. And this one is called Learn Python in 1 Day and Learn It Well. This is the one that I got started with. See how thin it is? This will get you going up and going with Python very, very quickly. And you come away able to write some basic stuff. Now, obviously, this is not a full Python reference manual. It's too thin for that. So for extra going deeper stuff and reference material, I like this one. It's the Python Crash Course. And I'd recommend you check that one out as well. All right, what other questions do we have? Ronaldo says, I just passed my CCNA. Thank you, Kevin, for making things so simply. Oh, that's what really juices me, Ronaldo, or Rolando, excuse me. Hearing success stories like that, I'm blessed to be in a position where I get to hear those like on the daily, and it never fails to just excite me. It just warms my heart. I had a student this morning tell me on LinkedIn that they passed their Encore exam, and they showed me, or they put a picture up of their exam score. And I told him, I said, wow, excellent work. You scored better than I did. I think I got like a 930 something. This guy got like a 950 something on the Encore exam. So that was fantastic. Jorge saying, thanks, Mr. Walls, for your videos. Oh, you're very welcome. Let's see. I'm a CCNA and want to follow the path of CCNP plus design. My idea is to have a vision for all pieces together. What do you think of my decision? With CCNP Enterprise, you can go down different tracks in the enterprise area. For example, you can say, I'm going to be sort of the traditional CCNP in routing and switching. You've got to take the core enterprise exam 350-401. That's the Encore exam I keep talking about. But then you get to pick your concentration exam. And there are I think there may be 2 concentration exams in the area of design. There's 1 or 2 in wireless. There is one on advanced routing and switching, which is called a NARCI. That's exam number 4. That's exam number 300. No, that's not right. It's exam, 300-410, I think it is. 300-410. But that's the NRC exam. But like I was saying earlier, if design is something that you see this vision for what design is going to give you, I think that's great. In fact, the highest earning Cisco professionals are network architects. They're really advanced design people. The last I heard, in fact, this latest certification update that came February, I don't think it had any impact on the Cisco certified architect, which is like the highest level. It's above CCIE. Last time I heard, I was talking to one of them at a Cisco Live. At that time, he told me that there were like 12 in the world. So yeah, they have that vision as well. So do I think design is a good track to go down? Yeah, but don't do it half-heartedly. Go all the way or don't go. But if you go all the way and you rise to that top few percent, yeah, you can be super successful. Let's see. Just scanning the questions really quick. I got my CCNA a month ago, and I haven't been able to get any interviews from anything from level 1 help desk through junior level network admin roles. What else can I do to increase my odds of getting a job or even getting an interview? And that's a really common one, Chris. And I think maybe I don't know your background, but one of the things that might be a challenge is experience. If you don't have experience bullets showing up on your resume, that can cause an employer with a stack of resume. Well, I guess no longer it's a stack of resume with paper. It's in the inbox, but it can cause them to pass you by. So what I recommend is that you create your own experience. You create your own experience bullets for your resume. A couple of ways you can do that. Number one is volunteer. If there's a charity or some nonprofit or a church, personally, I volunteer to help with the network at my church. And I don't do it for resume building purposes, but that's an example. You could go help out a nonprofit. In fact, I spent like the entire day yesterday fixing their wireless network. That was a troubleshooting issue that I'll have to bring up in a troubleshooting class down the road. But volunteer somewhere. Get some experience that way. Or another idea, or in addition to that, maybe you want to start your own network consulting company. I did that back in the 90s. And what I mean by that, you can do this full-time or part-time, depending on whether you're employed right now or not. But you can declare, if you've got expertise in this area and you're still learning, but you can set up somebody's basic home network, their basic Wi-Fi system. You can set up a business where they can share printers and get to the internet, and you can set up a firewall. Yeah, you can start doing word of mouth, promoting yourself as a network consultant or a network integrator, and you go set up some basic stuff. I mean, I started very basic with that. I'd go into somebody's office and I'd hook up their printer, or I would set up a bunch of PCs for them. So it was very basic stuff, but I mean, that kind of stuff can add to your resume. So I would recommend creating your own experience. And once you get to the interview, let me give you 3 quick tips for really acing up the IT interview. Number one is be ready to, if they ask if you've worked with a specific topic, be ready to bridge to another topic if you've not worked with that technology. For example, when I was in my interview for Disney World, I was one of their 5 network designers. I'm a big design guy too, but they asked me about a particular technology that I was not super familiar with. I said, but that's kind of like this BGP thing I did, and then I went into this big story about how I had done multi-homing BGP with autonomous system path prepends at my previous employer, and I took their question and diverted it to something that I could go and show, hey, I really know my stuff in this area. So I'm capable of being really technical. It's just a slightly different topic than I was asked about. So be ready to bridge to another topic where you can tell a story like that. Also, be ready with the story of regret. The common question you hear in interviews is, tell me about a mistake you made. Where did you go wrong? Be ready with your story of regret. And when you give it, don't make excuses, don't blame. Actually feel it. Go internal and feel the regret for something you did, and talk about how you turned it around, how you've learned from it, how you'll never do it again. I'll tell you my story of regret that I gave in an interview. It was when I was a manager at a local university. There was a network engineer that worked under me, and I had asked them to do something, and they had not done it. And it wasn't like the first time this had happened. It was kind of like the pressure cooker was building steam all this time. And it was like, more and more. And then one time when they hadn't done it yet, I coached them in public rather than in private. And that is a key mistake. And I realize it now. But I always say, coach in private, praise in public. But I gave them coaching in front of some of their peers within earshot. I still feel horrible about that to this day, but never did it again. I'll never do it again, and I've learned from that. So that would be the story of regret that I would tell in an interview. Let's see. I said I would try to come up with 3. Let's see. I thought of 2 real quick. Let's see. We'll stick with 2 for time's sake. But other questions that we have. Oh, somebody says they love my podcast, The Broadcast Storm. That's awesome to hear. Let's see. Working for a service provider company, everyone's talking about automation, but how much networking depth does one need to know in today's world? Does it make sense to do CCNP in any track, as an example? I really think it does, because it goes back to what Chuck Robbins was talking about lately. In fact, I think it might have been last year, talking about the dream team, the networking dream team, and that is where you've got somebody with deep domain expertise in programmability or automation, and then somebody else with the traditional route switch CLI technologies. And I think you have to know the underlying technologies in order to be able to program for it. Yeah, you can give your intent. We talk about intent-based networking. You can express your intent down to a network controller like the APIC or the Cisco DNA Center, and it can give the appropriate commands out to the end devices, and that's great. But somebody's got to write the code that takes in your intent and knows what to do with that. You have to know about like Yang data models. When you're filling out a Yang data model, which is big time shows up big time in automation, you use it with RESTconf, use it with NetConf. Well, in order to properly populate one of those Yang data models, you need to know the values that go in there. You need to know, for example, OSPF. Is this a stub area? What networks are we advertising? What interfaces are participating? You need to know how to configure things in order to automate it. So yeah, I think it's huge to know both sides. Otherwise, you'll have a lot of programming skills, and unless you're partnered up with that dream team person that did go down the NP track, yeah, you're going to be at a disadvantage. Let's see. Let's take one more question, and then we're going to wrap it up. I only plan to go for about half an hour, and I've already actually we're right about that time. Let's see. What resources do you recommend for studying for the CCIE Enterprise Lab? Should I go with I&E? Do I have any resources? That is a great question, and I am a big fan of rack rentals. So if you find somebody like in fact, I think I used some I&E equipment when I was getting my first CCIE way back in 2001. So find folks over there. Yeah, they've got some great rack rental options. I haven't checked out what they have lately, but I'm sure they're offering some top of the line stuff. So yeah, I think that's a great option. Oh, I would also consider using maybe one or two licenses for the new CML, what used to be Viral, and that's the Cisco Modeling Labs. You can buy a personal version of CML, which is what people used to use for their CCIE studies, because you could have like tons and tons of nodes in the professional or the enterprise version of Cisco Modeling Labs. But now that's not the case. Well, you can still do that, but you can now get a personal version, which gives you 20 nodes. You can set up a lot of CCIE enterprise infrastructure stuff with 20 nodes. If you need more than that, you can have two licensees for CML, and you can have those devices talking to one another with their new cloud icon within CML. It makes it super easy to do that. So yeah, I think either of those options will be great. One other option, and I haven't looked in depth at the exact equipment you would need for a home lab for the new IE enterprise infrastructure, but for the last CCI I did, which was in collaboration, well, it was voice, and then I got migrated to collaboration, I spent about $10,000 on a home lab. I don't remember exactly how much, but I spent several $1,000s on my first CCIE, which is in routing and switching. You might say, whoa, that's a huge investment. You're never going to make that back. Here's what I did. After I got each of my CCIEs, here's what I did. I turned around and sold it on eBay, or sold it to somebody else. And that stuff holds its value pretty well. I bought it on eBay and I sold it back. I only lost a little bit of money. It had only devalued a little bit in the months that I used it to train. So I had the opportunity to get full-blown home labs, thousands of dollars up front, but I pretty much got it all back after taking my CCIE. So different options for you. All right, let's go ahead and wrap it up for the day. Just thought we'd hop on here and do a little quick spontaneous Ask Me Anything. Again, I got nothing to sell to you today. Just wanted to see if I could hop on and be of service. And honestly, I kind of like doing this. You might be able to tell. I like connecting with people because I'm always in front of the camera. I like to connect with people sitting behind the screen. So thank you for spending your time with me today. I really, really value that. Thank you for the kind words, and thank you for letting me celebrate your successes with you. And if you've not subscribed to Instagram, which is where I intended to be streaming live, my Instagram, let me put that on screen for you really quick. So I'd love it if you would come join me over on my Instagram. Push that out there. I am at K Wallace CCIE, at K Wallace CCIE. If you want to go subscribe to my Instagram, I'm trying to put more and more content out there. But hey, thanks everyone, and we'll see you next time. Take care.